Bizarre Brain Comics. The Dark Librarian. Hello, my comic book friends or fiends. This is the Bizarre Brain Comics. Oh, and thank you for joining me. And here we are in October, spooky month. Ignore any of the background noises that you may be hearing. We've got some workmen doing some work in another part of the house. So Halloween, spooky month of October. Oh, Spooktober. And it is fast approaching, and I'm still trying to get stuff out. So this time, well, this is where I like to take a look at some older comics, talk a little bit about the characters and creators, and examine the stories and the art. And this time, we're going to be looking at Ghostly Tales, number 147 from 1981, Charlton Comics. And there are 3 stories there, and they have credits on 2 of them, and both of those are, it's the first and third one is listed as written by Joe Gill, and I would bet that the third one is also written by Joe Gill. And our artists for today are Sanho Kim, Steve Ditko, and Tony Williamson. Or maybe it's supposed to be Williamson. I'm not sure. I've never seen Williamson spelled like that. Okay. And Ghostly Tales, of course, is a horror mystery anthology comic book from Charlton Comics, running from 1966 to 1984. And it was primarily a reprint book from 78 on. So this is probably all reprint stories. And it featured the horror host I Am Dead. He also had previously early on he'd been known as Mr. L Dead. And I just wanted to tell you a little bit about one of our creators here is Sanho Kim. He was, and apparently he's still alive. He was born in 1939. He was a Korean-born comic artist, considered to be the first artist working in what is called the manhwa style, to be regularly published in the U.S. And he worked primarily at Charlton Comics in the horror titles and the kung fu book House of Yang. And that's where I always remembered him primarily, was from House of Yang. And he has a different, slightly unusual style for by American standards. But he had, or has, a very nice, I guess he was very, very famous and award-winning in South Korea. So most of his work was done over there. But he was is a very fine artist, great at visual storytelling, and just all around very, very nice. And all of the artists, this is one of the better, the Steve Ditko story here is one of the better drawn Steve Ditko stories for the Charlton horror comics. But still doesn't compare to his work at Charlton and Marvel in the 60s. Or even necessarily some of his own projects from independent stuff in the 80s. And then, of course, the last guy I said, Williamson, he was, I don't know anything about him. I'm completely unfamiliar with him. He's the one who did this cover illustration, and the illustration is for his story. And it does a fine job. Looks, has a strong, more, I would say, more of a style for romance comics. And I think that's probably where a lot of his stuff was featured. So we'll have a ghostly look at ghostly tales. There it is, Strange Valley, and this takes place in must be East Germany, because remember at the time it was still divided in some rather secluded small city in East Germany, and this guy, let me in. There's something out here, and then it goes back to the story. You see the monster about to get him, and goes back to just a few years before. It was quiet, sleepy, and probably economically depressed area. And the powers that be decided this would be a good place to put a new nuclear power plant. So they built a nuclear power plant, but still cut, not unlike actual Soviet era stuff in Eastern Europe. They really cut costs and provided very little shielding and backup systems and the like to save on costs. And things after it was in operation, things were happening. A lot of people were getting sick. There were birth defects, and a lot of people dying. And here we see the chickens and the pigs got so big that they actually attacked and killed the dairymaid. And people were having a lot of health problems. Then we see a couple of the big wigs coming to check the place out, the ones who okayed all this stuff. Go to check things out, and we see this horrid monster off in the shadows as they drive by. They go there. They decide they're going to have very short term there, and they're wearing shielded suits to protect them. This is where the regular people don't get that luxury. And here the creature is right there. Oh no, there it is. It's coming after them, and it's chasing them after they're getting ready to leave and taking off their radiation suits. And they rush back to near the reactor. Oh, we can't. And is there emergency shut off for that reactor because this radiation is dangerous? I said, no, it was more cost effective not to have it. Then the monster gets one of the guys. The other guy dies of a heart attack, and it walks away. And well, that's the end of that. Then our Steve Ditko story, The Last Bite. It's obviously a vampire story, but it's a very unusual looking vampire. This is our main character here is a private detective in his office waiting for his partner to appear, to get back, and then shots fired outside and bullets going right through their window, and he gets out there and he sees this unusual looking thing, and it's obviously a vampire, but they don't necessarily know that. And it turns out his partner was the victim. So now he's extremely angry and bent on revenge and catching and destroying that thing. And he insinuates himself into the investigation with the police. They kick his butt out. So he gets a couple of associates of his, a couple of friends, and him with himself, and they're acting as decoys, as bait, but they can't get in. Finally, his lady friend who was helping him, she presents herself as bait, but she didn't have the backup, and she is also a victim. So he baits himself. The strange looking vampire. That's a good image. It's because unusual, and it's a good version for comics. He is attacked, but he manages to struggle, get away, and the vampire chases him, and finally, he's got him in this alley, and pounces on him and starts feeding on him. Then there are bright lights, and this is like a church sign from from missions and stuff. And then go, what's happening? That's weakening him itself. And then he goes. Then the guy says, you fool. That was the body of my dead partner who you had already killed, and so instead of blood, all you got was embalming fluid, and that killed the vampire. And I think that's an interesting twist. Then you have a solemn oath Okay, this up here is I Am Dead. I meant to mention it before, and this is very heavy blacks and some heavy ink lines. It is very nicely drawn. This is Tony Williamson, and like I said, I'm not terribly familiar with him. But this fairly rich lady, her parents have recently passed away, and she's kind of dejected, and she's bought this this island that's in one of the Great Lakes, unspecified. And a storm is coming up, and she's gone out to the island to check it. There was an old monastery that's been there for like 200 years and was burned and is just in ruins. She goes to just check out the property, and then things start happening, and she keeps, and who's that? What's that? And then she's confronted by what appear to be demons and stuff, and these are projections from a ghost. Then the ghost itself confronts her, and I said the ghost is the ghost of Frere Julian, who was one of the monks here, and 200 years before, when the thing was newly built, he was the caretaker, supposed to take care of it. Happened to be when he was away from it, the fire broke out and burned the monastery down. But he has remained here all this time, and of course died there, and has haunted the place for 200 years. And he's trying to dissuade her from buying it, because she was going to tear down the ruins of the monastery, and he was trying to not do that. Then while they're talking, they're up on a hill. This is while the storm is broken, and there's a lightning strike right close to them, which, according to the lightning struck her. She may be dead, but I seem to have lost my ghost-like properties. I have ceased to exist. That's the ghost. Well, while this was happening, the guy from the pier where she had rented the boat was concerned about her when the storm came up, and he rushed out there, and he found her. She wasn't breathing. This was just right after she was struck by the lightning. Gave her mouth to mouth, and basically saved her life. And then they go talking about the monastery, and he says, "Oh yeah, this isn't as bad as it looks. There's so much stuff underground that's still good, and a lot of them." So she says, "Look, we can build it. And we can build it together." So she's instantly falling in love with this guy, because he looks just like Brother Julian. And see, this is more like almost like a haunted romance type thing. And so they just, so they have fallen in love, and they're going to restore the place rather than completely demolishing it to build anew. And that is the end of our spooky, ghostly tales. They're not the best, they're not the worst, but they are fun reading. And they are better than all those other stories that I've reviewed from some of the newer horror anthology comics from this past year or so. So I hope you enjoyed that. Please like, share, and subscribe. Do leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think of ghostly tales. What was your favorite Charlton horror title? They had several of them in the 70s. Let me know. Let me know in the comments below. Ooh. And remember, comics are art.